let me go home in the custody of my mother. My mother stood up and said, "Oh, no, John, don't let that boy go. He'll kill himself." Because she was at her wit's end, and I had been on this drug spree for 3 months at least, constantly doped up, staggering down the streets. And as soon as a little bit wear off, I go and get some more whiskey, wine, and beer, and drugs, and marijuana, one thing after the other. And then the LSD came out, and anything that I could find to escape the realities of life, I was doing it. And my mother was at her wit's end, and she wasn't about to let me get out of that jail. And the bailiff came and took me away, and as I walked away, I looked back at her. And I was an angry fellow. But do you know, it was the best thing for me? Because I had to go down to Vandalia, Illinois on the peanut farm, the peanut farm, where they put you to work. Now this is a big thing for me, work, because I hadn't done a lot of work in years. And I remember one time locked up in jail, and I was opened up the Bible, and I noticed in the Bible that there was a name of one of the books called, it was spelled J-O-B. So when I looked at it, I said, J-O-B, that's job. And I closed the book up. I'm not kidding. I said, what? That wasn't in my career path. And it was years before I opened the Bible up again. I wish I had read further. My God. I tell you, this is the best thing we got going for us. This is it. This is it. Well, I went, I spent 2 weeks in the county jail. They have to round up enough guys to make the trip worthwhile to go to southern Illinois, to turn us over to the state police. And when they got us down to the state police so that they could take us for the rest of the journey to Vandalia, they turned us over, and the state police had shotguns. And they pointed those shotguns, and they said, "All right, y'all boys from up north, you don't run nothing down here." And I saw the shotgun. I said, "Yes, sir." They took us to Vandalia. Now, this was a minimum security prison, where if you had been a hardened criminal, had went to the big house and done, you know, most of your time, when you got down to at least 2 years, then you could finish up your last 2 years on the peanut farm, where you had more liberty. And they had gates, and they had guards there and everything, but they wasn't worried about you running away. Because where could you go? You were out there with all the cornfields and everything, and the little town was there, and you wouldn't get far. The dogs would get you, and they would have you back. And they had a system set up whereby if you did run away, they had the local judge that would try you there in town, add on to your sentence. Now you got to go back to the farm and work off that time. So when I found out the system, I said, well, I'm going to get my little 90 days and get out of there. They turned us over. They took us to the facility and had us take off all of our clothes, and they made us shower and everything. They made us shave all the hair off of our body. And then they sprayed us with insecticide, because it was known that the Cook County jail inmates had ticks and fleas. So they were making sure we wasn't bringing them down there with them. And so they just broke us down all the way, put a pair of overalls on us, gave us a number, and assigned us our work detail. And we lived in barracks, kind of like Army barracks. And basically, it was like a boot camp for those of us who were on the streets of Chicago, they were going to bring a measure of discipline. I really, in retrospect, I look back, I really think it was a good program, you know, to break some of us and help us to get some kind of work mentality. You know, that if we learn how to work, we could get away from all this stealing and burglarizing and all this stuff. So, but of course, you know, at that point in time, I wasn't thinking like that. But as I look back, anyway, they gave us our job. I was fortunate to land a job in the kitchen, where we, you know, we scrubbed, we did KP duty, we served 900 inmates, 3 meals. We had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we had a persuasion to get up to. If the guard saw that you were moving kind of slow, he had a billy club that he didn't mind using to get you up. He didn't have to use it too often because people got up, we went to our jobs. And I remember the first night, I don't know if some of you saw this program on TV at some point, or a documentary about Scared Straight. Well, that's exactly what happened to me. For the first night in the dormitory, a young man was raped by other men. And there I was in the condition that I was, you know, 90 pounds, not eating. I'm living off drugs and alcohol. I'm not eating anything for the nourishment of my body. So I'm down to about 90 pounds. And there was a rude awakening that took place that next day when I realized what had happened. I said, these guys are animals. And I'm in here with them. And some of them have been away and done 10, 15 years in the big house. And in their sick minds, some of us young men who had come in there looked like girls to them. And now I'm in bad shape really because I'm a fair-skinned young fellow. And now all my hair is gone off my face, and I've got coal black hair. And I must have looked like a little sweetie pie to some of these